When you take a look at client churn, you absolutely have the ability to do some research and dig in and figure out what caused that client to leave or what caused them to quit your service. But you might want to take a look at it a little bit differently to figure out your time and your spacing and then use some specific questions. So how can this help you keep clients? That is a fantastic question. I'm Scott Sylvan, coming to you live from Sacramento, California on a perfect day to talk about client retention and client service, and a fantastic day to talk about you for consulting secrets. When you take a look at the friction factors or the problems that you have in your business, client loss is one of them that most people don't assign a value to. So if you take a look at the lifetime value of a client and you figure out what can I do to extend their lifetime with me, whether through services, products, or things that I can offer, you have a profit multiplier for a couple of reasons. One, you've already paid for that client. You've already acquired that lead. Second, if you could get them to stick around longer, if and where possible and is as needed, you might have more products and services that you could sell to them. Once again, where applicable. Like sometimes this doesn't happen. Sometimes it's an ethical issue. Do the right thing for the people that you serve. So I've got my $12 whiteboard here, right? Got my $12 whiteboard here. And let's say that they start their service at any given date, January 1st, last year, 2024. And as they go along, there is a point in everybody's mind for every service where, as a consumer, you go, I don't know if this thing's for me anymore. I don't know where or why or how. I'm upset with my provider, like whatever the excuse is. There's a point in your mind, there's a point in my mind where you're like, deuces, peace out, I'm done. I want nothing to do with this. And it may take you a couple of months to cancel. So you get to the end of the service. You get to the end and they call, they email, they send a message, they send you a text, and I don't want to be a part of your product, your service, your goods anymore. Please cancel me. Well, most companies go, okay, what led you to leave? And like, I'm unhappy. They ask the wrong, they're on the right path, but they ask the wrong question. So the real question should be something along the lines of, how long ago did you start feeling bad about the service that we provided? How long, like you're going to go into the past, right? And you're looking for an alpha point and you're looking for a Bravo point. Let me explain the difference. The alpha point is they started having the feelings, they started having the ideas, they started having the worries. And you really want to identify that. You want to get as many data points as you can. You want to figure out at what point people are like, I got to bounce out. I don't like this anymore. And once you figure out this alpha point from asking questions, and your personality is really going to determine how you ask this question. It could be, at what point did you decide? What was the final factor? What was the final straw? Like there's a million different ways to ask this question. What way would you ask it? If it was me, I would say, hey, there was a point in the past where you decided you didn't want to work with me anymore. What was that? What was that action? What did I do wrong? Well, you didn't return my phone call fast enough. So I'm going to write that down. And then I'm going to say, in your mind, what were you expecting? This is where all the questions come in. What were you expecting? I was expecting immediate response. Okay. Well, as in a consultant, I don't do immediate response unless it's like a 911 note. Okay. I do rapid, but not immediate. And then I say, okay, so when you made that decision, was there a time frame that if I would have discussed this with you, this is your Bravo point. Is there a time frame that if I would have discussed this with you, I would have been able to save you as a client? Yeah. If you would have talked to me within the same day. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make notes about all the people that I have talked to that have told me about their alpha and Bravo point. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in a wild card here. I'm actually going to say, okay, somebody who's been a client of mine for 18 months, at 19, I'm in danger. So what does that mean? At month number 16, I need to preempt that by a couple of months. I need to come into here and I need to send something out, contact the client, alleviate their pressure, stop their pain, make sure that I have whatever contact with them that I need to have contact with, and put this as a test. Is this going to work all the time? No, because nothing does. But what it should do is something over time. If it is working, your alpha point and your Bravo point should be pushed back further. It should go down the timeline this direction. So once you lock this in and you move everything forward right? You're moving it so that it's longer, they're a longer client, they're happy with your service, then you do this again. And then what happens is you take this information and you disseminate it to your team. You're like, hey, listen, we have to make sure to do everything better. We have to be better than the average Chuck. We have to be better than the average company. And the only way that we do this is by gathering this intel. You can have one person in your organization that's dedicated to taking care of this. It could be done by you. Like, there's a lot of different ways for you to figure out ways to keep people on your service, ways to keep people buying your product, but you got to go backwards. It wasn't today. It doesn't matter the product or service. There was inklings back 60 days ago. I'm going to give you my average numbers, 45 days. Right? Like, when I work with companies, this is one of the exercises that we run. It was probably 45 days ago. Something happened 45 days ago. And some of these things are completely out of your control. Somebody might have lost a job. Somebody might have gotten in an argument with their significant other. Somebody may have had a new boss put in place inside of an organization. And if you can, there's usually 3 buckets. If you can figure out whatever 3 buckets are in your business and your service, you're going to be miles ahead of your competition. And then here's what you do. You protect this. This is something that is proprietary information inside of your organization. This isn't something that you go out and announce that everybody else finds out about. You don't give, you can tell the story that I just did. Hey, we did this thing. But what you don't do is say, here's the information that I gathered, right? Because let the other companies in your industry, inevitably it'll get back to them. Let them figure out ways to do what needs to be done. Don't let them piggyback so fast. Right? Make them put in some work, make them put in some effort. And then you could trade, like, hey, this is what I found. What did you find? Like, oh, we found the same thing. Or, oh, we found 2 more buckets that you didn't. Sometimes you, me, are our worst enemies for spilling the beans too quick. Like, there's things that I can tell you about what I do, but there's also things that I leave out because I have to. Okay. So my challenge for you is to go through and figure out what is your alpha and bravo point, and then figure out what you're going to do when you know this information, and go back a significant amount of time and do what you can through a drip campaign to solve that itch. You got one of 3 things to do from here. Just one of 3. Find the subscribe button, click on it, and every time I send out a video, you'll get an update. 2, hit follow. 3, share this video with a friend. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.